Unified Championship Radio.
Yes, indeed. Like Funaki.
Indeed.
This is Ringside Rumble Radio here on UCR Network, powered by Spreaker.com and free on iTunes.
Oh, yeah. I listened to us briefly on iTunes the other day.
And we sounded good, didn't we?
We sounded damn good.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, catch UCR Network on Twitter and Instagram at UCR Network and on Facebook, facebook.com/UCR Network. My friend, this is Anthony the Ant-Man alongside Keith Logan, the Loganator, taking you through this week's big wrestling news. And usually we start off with Raw, but even bigger news took over this week as we found out Bret the Hitman Hart has prostate cancer. So we'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of wrestling topics to talk about today. So it won't be just rehashing what happened on Raw or NXT or even Impact, but a lot of big news, a lot of questions.
Tons of questions.
A lot of answers maybe that you guys can answer out there in the wrestling fan universe.
You got to tweet at us to give us the answers.
Hey, I posted some Facebook comments to some wrestling groups trying to find out their favorite Bret the Hitman Hart moments, and we'll get to those. We got a lot, man.
We do.
This is big for us, and we'll get to those in the second segment. But let's start off with the Hitman himself. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I think it was Facebook and Instagram he posted.
I saw it on Instagram because I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, I follow him on all three.
I was at work, and all of a sudden I was like, what is going on here? And I actually read the whole thing, and I was in a bit of shock, a little sad. And then all of a sudden I texted you right away. I'm like, did you see this on Instagram?
Let me tell you something. I was in a class helping out, teaching in my other job. And as soon as you sent me that text, I had to turn away for a moment because I almost broke down. I mean, that's how much Bret Hart has meant in my life as a fan. I'm wearing the Hitman shirt, so we're going to have to take a picture of this later. Got the Randy Orton shirt going on over here for the Loganator.
Yes.
But yeah, it's hard because we're losing all these guys, man. And it's just rough to think about. Like, it's like your childhood, because as a kid, I wasn't really into sports. It was pro wrestling. Whether it was fake or not, I watched it. And just losing all these guys as of late, and it's just like a piece of your childhood gets taken away here, there, every time.
Well, yeah, thank God he's not gone yet.
Well, we just got good news today, and that is that they got it in the early stages.
Yeah, so that will be a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing, but
But we've lost Macho Man Randy Savage, we've lost the Ultimate Warrior, Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper. The list goes on, and it's, like you said, it's kind of sad because you grew up with these guys. You remember watching them. I watched sports and I watched wrestling, so I had a bit of both. So even you see, like, with hockey, taking mainstream quickly, like, I'm a Devils fan, so you see Brodeur, and you see how he's gotten older, he's retiring his jersey and all. I mean, it's a little different, but still you see these guys dying and passing away, and it kind of upsets you a little bit because you remember looking back, growing up, watching these guys weekly, watching sports weekly, and it's I guess things don't last forever, unfortunately.
As we could wish, that's why we have the WWE Network.
Yeah.
But like, even when you see them come back for like a special appearance, sometimes
they're not the same how you remember them.
Yeah, it's not the same.
And that's why I'm kind of against the whole special guests. Let's have them come back for one night only, another match out of retirement. After a while, they don't look the same. You don't remember them where they were at their heyday when they were big stars, and then they come back and some of these guys look not the greatest, and you just want to remember them for how they were and how big of a star they were with your childhood.
Right. We all know that Bret Hart had to retire in 2000 after suffering a major concussion at the hands of Goldberg.
Yeah.
And, around the early 2000s, he suffered a stroke. And that kind of just ended any thought of ever getting back in the ring or anything. And, for such a long time, he was against coming to the WWE, and you just hoped and prayed that maybe sometime he would. And then, he signed the deal to do the DVD and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we thought, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe we'll end it there. And then they brought him back on with a TV role, and I thought, wow, have him come back, do the thing he did with Shawn Michaels where they buried the hatchet and just end it there. But then they brought him in to fight Vince McMahon at WrestleMania, and of course, Bret can't take any bumps.
No. And he didn't look the Bret that we remember. And for a while, you didn't even think he was coming back between the whole screw job and the whole thing with Owen. When Owen passed away, there was a lot of heat between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. So,
yeah, I think he was really angry about being screwed in Montreal, but I think because of that anger from Montreal, it carried over to what happened with Owen.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Because I think if that didn't happen in Montreal, things would be a little more different to now, as the fact where he comes back and he's not against Vince. He's against Martha, who's Owen's wife, and they're trying to put him into the Hall of Fame. They just released the Owen Hart DVD, and they can't really do anything because his wife is holding things up. And I guess it's rightfully so. That's her husband. But, even Bret and the rest of the family is just trying to, I guess, memorialize him in the right way.
Of course.
But even I think his brother also got diagnosed, Smith Hart got diagnosed with prostate cancer as well. But his cancer was a little on the later stage, and it moved into his hip. So hopefully he gets a speedy recovery as well as Bret.
Yeah, of course. Definitely.
But we also have some wrestlers that, gave their thoughts into this, and they tweeted out. Roman Reigns posted on his Twitter, everyone gets knocked down, but the best, in caps, the best get through it. Prayers are with Bret Hart. We're all with you. Triple H, thoughts and prayers with Bret Hart and his family. Let's all get in his corner to help him win his fight. Get well, Hitman. I saw a post on Facebook the other day, as the Ultimate Warrior's account is still active, and it's run by his wife, Dana Warrior, and she posted a nice long paragraph. I mean, we all know that the Hitman and the Warrior really didn't see eye to eye. They never really got along, but after the Ultimate Warrior passed away, they got in contact with each other, and now they're really good friends. And she posted a nice speech on Facebook about that, and I thought that was pretty touching.
Yeah, that's good. And people actually, you said before we started the show today, people were actually responding to a Facebook post you had for our page?
Yeah, I asked them, their thoughts on what their favorite matches were, what they really liked about Bret, and then we'll get more into that into the second half. But let's get into some of our favorite moments. I think my all-time favorite Hitman moment was actually him turning heel in '97, because that was my first time being a heel fan, and it felt so good being the bad guy.
The bad guy.
Yeah, Bret Hart turns heel in the infamous switch at WrestleMania 13. Now, everyone talks about Stone Cold Steve Austin and him, Austin 316, that being the night that Stone Cold was born. And yes, that is the genesis of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But the real turn, the real, I guess, shooting star for Steve Austin was WrestleMania 13, and that submission match and the fans just switched. I'd never seen that ever happen before, and who knows if that'll ever be done perfectly again, because after that, Austin became an absolute star.
And that, I feel, was how the real start of the Attitude Era began. Like you said before, everybody talks about, oh, well, he came out with Austin 316 at the King of the Ring when he's talking about when he beat Jake the Snake. But really what it comes down to is the whole switch and how Bret Hart, he decided to give the match to Austin and basically hand the torch over to him, turn heel.
And that's a true passing of the torch.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, 100%.
I mean, because Bret was still a star.
He was still a star, and also he his flame was slowly going out in WWE because you had all these up-and-coming guys coming. You had The Rock, but before he was The Rock, he was Rocky Maivia, and he kind of was in the Nation and kind of trying to find himself. You had Mankind. You had Stone Cold slowly gaining momentum.
Undertaker. Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, so after a while, the guy who was carrying the workload and carrying the boss and everybody else in the back, he kind of was getting pushed out of the limelight a little bit. They kind of put him in the back with the New Hart Foundation. They had him in all these tag team matches. One match that stands out to me was when they were in Canada, and he and the New Hart Foundation were going up against Stone Cold and Dude Love, and there was a flag match. And they had the Canada flag, and then you had the American flag, and that match stands out to me, as well as the infamous screw job. You can't go wrong with that. I mean, everybody who's a wrestling fan, if you don't know what the screw job is, then you're not really a true wrestling fan.
It's as real as wrestling gets.
Oh, 100%.
Because I'm telling you this right now, there was about to actually be a mutiny in the locker room as they were all going to walk out.
And when they went in the back of the room, I remember watching, there's a documentary.
Wrestling with Shadows.
And Vince was like, went in the back, and Bret Hart punched him full on in the back.
Knocked him right out.
Yep. And I'll never forget watching that. I actually was watching that again today, a little bits and pieces of that Survivor Series. And you see him, I'll never forget, when he's in the ring, and he's spinning at Vince McMahon, and he's writing in the air, WCW.
Now, was that on air? Was that actually on air at the Survivor Series?
I remember seeing it. I don't remember if it was actually... I didn't finish the actual Survivor Series today on the network, so I don't know if it's still in there.
Because I was watching Monday Night Wars, and it was the Bret Hart episode. And they show him tearing apart the set, doing the WCW, but I don't think that made it to the pay-per-view. I think they cut it off with Shawn raising his hands, and they cut him out of the ring.
Well, I have to go to the network then and watch that.
Yeah, so I mean, that was...
Because I started from the beginning. I got up to the actual traditional Survivor Series.
It was sad that it's a guy that gave his all to the WWE would have to go out that way. And now I understand Vince's side where he was being... They all were saying that he was, unapproachable about the scenario that they were going to end with.
But you have to understand from his side. I mean, it was messed up because Bret Hart was a man who never went back on his word. He said he would have done anything for that company, and Vince was worried that it was almost going to be another Medusa scenario, bringing the women's title and just dumping it into the garbage
and I think
bag.
Bret was too respectful, too honest, to do something like that.
But unfortunately, Vince thought maybe Eric Bischoff got to Hart's ear and said, "Hey, if you do this, here's an extra $2 million or $1 million or whatever the contract was finalized. If you decide to do this, we'll give you the extra X, Y, and Z." So, I mean, who knows what he was thinking at that time?
Yeah,
unfortunately, it was a big. It was horrible because, like you said, there was a huge hold. Everybody was going to walk out on everyone. So
yeah, and it was just a tough ending to such a great year. Like I said, it was such a great year. As you see for the first time, Bret, Owen, and the Bulldog hugging each other to, restart the new Hart Foundation. I thought that was such a cool group with them. And then they brought back Jim Neidhart and they brought in Brian Pillman.
Yep.
I thought that was such a cool group. And